sometimes very difficult to find a solid horror anime, mainly because it seems like they always go into the realm of either over-the-top emotion or just extremely violent. And I think Mieruko-chan is definitely a series that a lot of people that are fans of horror should be looking out for. It's fantastic to have it starting out in October, because obviously Halloween, but these are my thoughts on the first episode. Typically, I wait for a couple episodes to come out before I do my first impressions, but man, the first episode got me really excited, so I really want to talk about it. So let's jump into it. The show opens up with a girl named Miko, and Miko seems to be a standard high school girl. Doesn't really have anything special going about her, but she goes to school, comes home, goes to school, come home. Everything seems to be perfectly natural. But at some point when she's coming home, she's standing at a bus stop, and suddenly her phone starts going crazy. It's just like suddenly out of nowhere, she takes a picture of herself and sends it to her friend, and then it starts sending over and over again back to her from her friend. The same picture. Really, really fast. And then it starts speeding up to the point where it starts to almost turn into a film strip where it starts to adjust, and a crazy, ugly, horrific picture of herself stares back at her, and she freaks out. And that's when she looks up and she sees some really humongous, deformed creature person thing that is staring at her. And the thing starts asking her, "Do you see me?" And in her mind, she's like, "I totally see this thing. Maybe I should act like I don't see it." She's like, "Oh man," she replied to me, and she starts acting as if she doesn't see this thing that's standing before her. And after a while, it keeps asking if she sees it, and eventually it gives up and walks away. It can't see me, and walks away. And then begins this kind of occurrence that keeps happening to Miko, where she sees something, and she panics, but she tries to force herself to hide the fact that she can see it. These random ghosts that are all around her that seem to be trying to haunt her, but because she doesn't acknowledge them, they give up and leave. And it gets worse because like she's in the bathroom and she's brushing her teeth, and then suddenly there's this big guy behind her, and it's putting its hand against the mirror and just asking if it sees it. And she's like, the thing wouldn't leave for like 20 minutes. And then it comes to the scene where she's going to bed, and this thing is literally on her stomach under the sheets saying "mama" over and over again, and she has to ignore it. I feel so bad for this girl. And this continues as she goes back to school, and she's on the third floor, and this thing walks by the window, and she's like, "Is it third? This is the third floor, isn't it?" Technically, I think she in her mind acknowledges it, and I think it was coming after her. But yeah, few things about this show. One, this does horror so right. Like, I love the way that it's portraying this horror. It's doing the sense of ambience. It's got that sound in the background, that ambient sound, that long pause, the suspense that's going about it. The what is behind the camera kind of aspect, what's behind me, what's off my view aspect so well. It even opens up the episode with this kind of scary stories show that's going on, and this girl comes home. She was running from something. She comes home, locks herself in her house, and her lights won't work. And then eventually, randomly, her microwave turns on, and then her fridge opens up, and this Sadako kind of thing comes out of the fridge. And the way it even did that was perfect. Like, it was perfect. Like, the sound, everything was just killing it on the horror scene of things. And this continues, like I said, with her encounter with the thing at the bus stop. Even just before that, she goes to the school to get something that she left behind, and as she's in the school, right when she walks up to the door to her room, it has it's a certain type of ghost concept where you can see in the dark room this silhouette of a figure. It was like a ghostly or like a ghastly looking figure. And the moment she turns on the lights, it disappears. Then she turns the lights back off, and it's not there. And so it has that aspect of like, well, if I turn it back off, will it come back? And like I said, it's a type of ghost concept that I think is just absolutely dreadful to think about. And the way they pulled that off was fantastic. Having the lights turn off and then it's gone. And even having this point where she picks something up and you're assuming something's going to be behind her, and it just kind of rushes by in the hallway. It's just nailing horror so well. Now, the thing is so funny because this aspect concerns me because I know this is a comedy show. And it was the same with the PV. When I seen the PV's like super horror, and then suddenly out of nowhere it starts getting goofy and bubbly and funny. And so I'm really afraid of the comedy ruining this really great portrayal of horror. But I think I kind of, based on the first episode, I kind of get an idea of what they're going with, which is the idea of having that horror there, but it's sort of being offset by the silly nature that is Miko reacting to it. So you're not caught in horror, you're kind of having these moments where you laugh about how, yeah, it's unfortunate that she has to sleep with this thing on her belly the entire night because he doesn't want to acknowledge it, but she's still freaking out. So I'm curious how that'll play out. It's one of those things where I'm wondering, is it going to play out like School Live, where School Live had like a completely horror concept with the first episode, and then beyond that is just, let's have fun in the club, which is okay? Or is it going to do just deep horror the entire time? Stick to it kind of thing. I'll be very interested to see that. Because like I said, I think it's just pulling off the horror so well. I want this. It's like, you gave me this. I want this. Please give me this. Because it's easily one of the best horror. Like this first episode was like so well done. So well done. The other very interesting aspect to this show that I know is probably going to be a bother to certain people is it does have technically some very interestingly placed ecchi stuff. So keep that in mind. Not that it shows anything, but it gets really involved with the butt shots and the very tight outfits that show the lining of underwear. So keep that in mind. It seemed to like to show that a lot. Like, I mean, Hana, they like to show her chest a lot, and then with Miko, it just had, like I said, a lot of butt shots. And it stuck on them pretty long, so some people might find a problem with that, so just keep that in mind. I didn't really find it a bother. It was just kind of funny that I was like, okay, we're showing this for some reason. We also had a girl named Julia who was very interested in Miko. She's probably going to be somebody that already sees them and knows that Miko is able to. I don't know, maybe she knows like she's got a inherent power to see them. Hana was a goofball. That was the other thing that this show really had. And it does technically have me okay with the comedy concept being in there. Is just the interactions between Hana and Miko were already funny. Like, I just found their little, just very casual back and forth to be really kind of humorous. So again, it kind of gives me hope that when they do get into comedy, it's not going to be annoying. Like I say, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it is interesting. I'm curious what they're going to end up doing with the show. Like I said before in our preview, I was really curious if this will be a show where she ignores them at first, because obviously a lot of these concept of ghosts, as long as they don't know that you can see them, they leave you alone. But the moment that they know that you can see them, they attach to you. And so her saying that she doesn't see them obviously is going to make them go away. But what if it turns into a thing where she ignores them for so long, but eventually she tries to help them? I wonder if it's going to go a Natsumi Jinsho route or something like that, where she has to help them, carry on. And so she has to fight basically her fears to communicate with them, to find out what's wrong with them, to help them kind of carry on. That would be, I don't know, that'd be kind of terrifying at the same time, because they're very unpleasant the way that Passione has actually portrayed these things. Just the sound of them and the way they speak is just very unsettling. Just it's pulling it off so well. And like I said, I hope they keep to that solid horror going forward. I hope they don't leave that and just go straight comedy, but that's just my hope, because based on how well it's portrayed. But we'll have to wait and see. But that's my thoughts on the first episode of Mieruko-chan. Definitely a solid horror, at least so far. We'll see how well it does the comedy. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Are you going to check it out? Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And definitely stick with us as we go through first impressions of all the shows of the fall 2021 anime season, as well as wrapping up the reviews for the summer 2021 anime season. I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.